You're listening to episode 22 of A Whole New You podcast. On today's show, I'm interviewing Rita Rogers about her popular website and Instagram account, Healthy Beats Skinny. We discuss mindset around food and taking control of our health. We also touch on helpful supplementation and easy, sustainable exercise tips. Welcome to A Whole New You podcast. I'm your co-host, Kim Maravich. I'm a registered nurse and author of the book 360 Health. I'm joined by my dear friend, Lori Biddle, a health and wellness coach certified through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. Our show exists to inspire and empower women to take charge of their health with weekly tips and conversation about self-care, mindset, nutrition, fitness, and clean living. Please keep in mind that the material provided in this podcast is intended as general information only and should not be used as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. We're thrilled to have you here. Let's get to the show. Before we get to the show, I would like to read a 5-star review we received on iTunes. This is from Janet R. Day. It says, "Thanks, ladies, for inspiring me to live a cleaner and healthy life. You are both very informative, and I learn a lot every week. Thank you." Well, thank you, Janet. We so appreciate these reviews. And if you're listening out there and wouldn't mind pausing and just going to leave us a rating and review in iTunes, we would really appreciate it because it helps more people find our show. All right, let's get on to the episode. Welcome back, everybody. Today, I am so happy to have Rita Rogers joining me on the podcast. Rita has 13 years experience as a nurse in a cardiovascular ICU, where she's still practicing. But currently, she spends most of her working hours blogging and helping people one-on-one get to the root of their health and weight pain points through nutrition and supplementation. She and her husband have 2 little girls and live a midwestern farm life. Rita, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kim. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I love that you live on a farm, and I love seeing on Instagram all of your pictures. You have real cows, don't you, on your farm?
Yeah, not statues. They're real.
I know. I just think it's the coolest thing. And you've even put I think in your stories you had sounds of them mooing, and I love seeing your girls just like kind of hovering over the fence and looking over at the farm. It just seems a very peaceful place to be.
It usually is, except during farming season.
Yeah, I can imagine. I bet that's just a ton of work,
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
for your husband.
It's good though. So I grew up on the farm basically with a farm life and farm lifestyle. So I knew what I was getting into, I guess, when I married my husband.
Yeah, that is really cool. So tell us just a little bit more about, like where you live and your family before we get into the questions.
Yep. So I'm an Indiana native. I grew up there, met my husband at Purdue, where I studied nursing, and then moved over here to Central Illinois. And so I guess we live here in like the prairie, I guess you could call it, with our 2 little girls. Like you said, I work in a cardiovascular ICU. I've got a pretty sweet gig. I work 1 day a week there still. Sometimes I think that I'm ready to eliminate that part of my life, but I really love keeping up my skills and that skill set, I guess, and knowing what goes on in the medical world still. But most of the time I spend my time blogging and Instagramming and all that good stuff to passively help people one-on-one, or passively help people that aren't really ready to be helped one-on-one, and then eventually help people one-on-one working through their health issues and mental challenges to get healthy. So
Yeah, I was going to say when you first mentioned passively, I was thinking, wow, you're so much more than passive because you have so much great information. But I think that's a good point that some people, aren't ready.
yeah,
They always
I
say
think
when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And so you're there, they just
yes.
have to be ready.
Yeah, I think some
Yeah.
people like to sit back and watch a little bit and just kind of figure out if they're ready to be helped, before. And
Yeah.
before I did the blogging, I kind of was trying to help people one-on-one, but I was finding not everybody was ready. And some people did need to sit back and watch a little bit first. So
Yeah. And I think you give people you give so much information on your Instagram that I think people are drawn to you, not because you're not always just talking about, health. You talk about your life, you talk about a lot of other things, even your faith. And so people are in your family and people are drawn to that. And so I think that, people find that they are really falling for you in the sense that they like you, they trust you. You have that know, like, and trust factor that we always
Oh,
talk
you're so
about.
sweet.
Yeah, it's so true though. And I think that, I think if when people are ready to be helped, that you're the first person they would turn to just because of that, because you have such a kind demeanor.
Yeah,
So
well, it's all intertwined, right? Like our life, our spiritual
yeah,
life, our health,
yeah,
all of that is all intertwined and none of it's separate. And I think when we do try to separate it too much, that's when it's really hard because it's not all separate.
for sure, for sure. So speaking of Instagram, you do have a popular Instagram account, and your blog is the same, and it's called Healthy Beat Skinny. So at Instagram, you are at Healthy Beat Skinny. So how did this come about, and how did you come up with the name?
Well, I guess a couple years ago, I decided I'd been helping people for a while, one on one, for a few years already. And I decided I wanted to take it more, like I said, to the masses so they could decide if they wanted to be helped by me. Um, and in deciding a name, I spent years striving for a body type, probably a good decade, striving for specifically a body type and correlating being thin with being healthy and that being one and the same almost. And it's not. Um,
Mhm.
so I guess healthy beat skinny to me in my mind was I allowed the desire to be healthy conquer my desire to be skinny. And
Mhm.
that's kind of where the name came about. And I guess I really wanted to help women, I guess anyone, because if you talk to anyone who says they want to get healthy, what's the first thing they say? They want to lose weight. And
Yeah.
yes, a lot of us do need to lose weight, but that's not the driver for being healthy. Losing that weight doesn't automatically make you healthy. I don't know if you ever saw that ad on Facebook. I don't know if it's out there anymore, but it drove me nuts. It had like this shredded guy and he was like, I got this way eating Pop Tarts. And I'm like,
Oh,
okay.
jeez.
I'm like, is this really what we want to tell people? But anyway,
Yeah.
my point being, you don't have to do healthy things and make healthy choices necessarily to look the way you want. But you
Hmm.
have to make healthy choices to be healthy. And eventually, those choices that lead you to be healthy usually lead to the body type you want, but
This
not
is
vice versa. Does that make sense? So
absolutely,
I guess
absolutely. Yep.
that's kind of what led me there to that blog title. But I'm more about overall just health and helping people release their, just get off prescription meds as much as possible, not be dependent on all of that stuff, and just try to be healthy and use nutrition to do so.
And nutrition is so powerful, we know. And, thinking of the whole skinny thing also, you hear of skinny fat, that there are people who are, aesthetically, they look so skinny, but they carry, that visceral fat on the
Mm-hmm.
inside
Yeah,
because they're really not making healthy choices. So just the appearance of someone doesn't indicate health, always.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I am
So,
testament to that.
Aw,
Not now, but in the past.
right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So tell us about your past relationship with food. Would you say that you ever suffered from disordered eating?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess this is kind of hard to talk about sometimes because
Yeah.
the more I think about it, like I think when I was talking to you a while back, even I said, I wouldn't say I had an eating disorder because I was never
Mhm.
anorexic, I was never bulimic, and I don't want to detract from the people who actually have suffered from those serious eating disorders. But I definitely had a bad relationship with food. And even this last weekend, I had spoke at a women's event and I was like actually writing out some of the things I went through. And I've never done that before. I've only thought about them. And as I wrote them, I was like, this was crazy how I lived. It was not normal. I definitely had problems with food. I definitely always ate for a body type. I was extremely restrictive on calories up to the point where I would only allow myself to eat like 1,200 calories a day um, at times. So I guess it started in high school. I was really restricting calories. I remember days where I would work at the hospital half days and then go to school the other half of the day. And when I came home for lunch, I would have carrot sticks only because I knew I had eaten a big breakfast and I was going to eat a big supper. And I just really wanted to restrict myself so I didn't go over what I was supposed to eat for the day or what I thought I was supposed to eat. And it wasn't too bad in high school, but then I got to college and it was kind of a time of loneliness and emptiness. Even though I was meeting really great friends and everything, I still felt empty. I think it's just that transition period in your life. And
Sure.
when you look at most problems with eating, a lot of them have a component of just feeling unfulfilled. It's not all about the food. And it was something I could control. So I definitely remember times, and it's so embarrassing to say because some people will be like, "You are crazy," but I would go to the grocery store and just like load up on Oreos and ice cream and anything I get my hands on, pizza, all kinds of stuff, and I would go home and down it. And then the next day, I was on the treadmill for hours because I had to punish myself for eating that way. And
Mm.
the whole time I was doing this, I looked the same pretty much. I mean, my weight would fluctuate maybe 8 pounds, but people didn't know because I was really great at hiding that I was doing that. Um, I just always stayed that size, but it wasn't healthy what I was doing to myself, and it wasn't healthy the relationship I had with food. It wasn't healthy to treat my body that way at all. I think I got over it pretty much when I decided I was going to have kids. We decided we wanted to have children, and I had drank diet pop pretty regularly, which is terrible. I wouldn't ever drink that now, but I drank diet pop. I ate Yoplait Light with aspartame in it, and I eliminated those things because I knew they weren't healthy for a child if I was to get pregnant. And that was the first time I'd ever made a decision based on what was healthy for me instead of what would add or take away from my waistline. And that was a total mind flip. And I wasn't completely better after that, after deciding we were going to have kids, but that was a start of recovering from all of that.
So it really is a psychological thing, isn't it? Because I think, and I think that's for anybody with disordered eating, or if they did have an eating disorder itself, um, that it is a mind game, and that and you're a testament to that. Your body might not even look that different, but you can have this turmoil going
Mm-hmm.
on inside of you. And also, I'm sure in some ways your body suffered because if you are eating things like Oreos and ice cream, you're not nurturing yourself in the way that that you should be.
Absolutely. I didn't feel
Yeah. Right, right. So I'm sure there's a whole energy thing, and we know now that, healthy food allows us to have better brain functioning too. But I think you're telling the story pretty much of so many, of probably the majority of young women, um, that we're struggling with that body image, and we're doing anything we can to maintain it. And I
Mhm.
think, maybe with age and or just maturity, we get to a point where, and I think you said it right when you said that when kids come into the picture, and not only just for their health, but I'm sure you're the same way. And you have little girls, and I have little boys, but um, you just see that you need to be there for them, and that they're this miraculous
Yeah.
creation, and you would never want them to struggle with
Hmm.
anything that you're struggling with. And I can say that even having boys, that I just want them to love themselves for who they are. And you wish you could kind of go back in time and just like wrap your arms around that girl that you used to be and say, it's going to be okay, and you're beautiful, no matter what.
Hmm.
But it is a struggle, psychologically. So, as you recovered from this, Rita, how did your mindset shift? So what are some things that helped to bring you clarity, and that you think were instrumental in your healing?
Well, to dive just a little bit deeper there, I think
Mhm.
the main thing was that I had a health scare. Um,
Mm.
and that was when my oldest was about 1 year old. I had found a lump on my back and ended up I'll spare you the whole story because it's long. And basically, I was not treated for a long time. They sent me to physical therapy and all kinds of things in between for a lump on my back. And like my trust was broken down with the medical system pretty hardcore at that point. And they thought I had cancer. I went through, had surgery, had it removed, and it turns out it was not cancer, but the neurosurgeon told me he thought for sure he was going to be telling me I had cancer the day he told me I did not. So that was the biggest mindset shift of all, realizing that I wanted to be healthy and be there for my kids. And I realized that a goal like being healthy and being able to be there for my family would just move mountains compared to a goal of looking good in a bikini. You know, I mean, which is more powerful, being there for your kids or looking good in a bikini, you know? So I feel like that was a huge mindset shift for me, was just the goal of wanting to be there and be present and be around for my kids long term. And I know, like, I really believe, you know, God knows our days, God knows how long we're supposed to be here, but we can do everything in our power to live the best life we can while we're here. And so I just started thinking of food not as calories or as a way to increase or decrease my waistline or as my enemy or all those things I used to think of food as. I just thought of it strictly as a way to nourish my body. And so when I went to the kitchen, I was deciding, is this going to nourish my body? Is this going to help me live longer with my kids? Or is this going to be like a withdrawal from my health bank account, so to speak? You know, is this a deposit or withdrawal? And so I was choosing healthier foods more often. I was choosing salads. I was choosing the vegetables. I was making sure I was getting enough vegetables in my day. And then I didn't have room for all the rest of the stuff because I was actually getting the foods that I needed and that my body needed to nourish itself. And then sometimes, you know, sometimes chocolate cake was what I needed that day because it was my daughter's birthday party and I wanted to eat the chocolate cake. And for the first time, once I made that mindset shift, I didn't feel guilty eating chocolate cake at my daughter's birthday party because it didn't hurt my body to have it every once in a while. It was actually fulfilling because it was fulfilling emotionally. Yeah. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but for me, I feel like food became something that was emotionally fulfilling at times. So that was a good thing.
I think there's a lot of freedom in that, you know, when you go from restricted eating to being able to enjoy the cake like you're talking
Yes.
about and not have to feel like you have to exercise for 3 hours the next day just to burn that off.
I had
Um,
never not felt guilty before.
yeah,
Never. And it's so freeing, like you said, so freeing.
absolutely. And I love what you said about, you know, kind of like your body being like a bank account and that you're talking about depositing healthy food and what is going to nourish you. When you really think about what you're putting into your body and is this going to deplete my savings account or is it going to add to it? I think we can look at food in a whole different dimension. And that's not to say that we can't treat ourselves. And that's one thing that I like about you, Rita, is that you know, you don't follow one specific diet approach. Like you're not ketogenic or you're not paleo. It's just that you're thinking about foods that are healthy
Mm-hmm.
and but you're also allowing yourself some freedom, like you said, to emotionally enjoy things and to not feel guilty. Because I mean, who wants to miss out on life, you know, like all the festivities that like birthday parties for your sweet little girls, you know,
Yeah.
you don't want to miss that. But you can also then the next day, you know, pile up those vegetables a little bit more and know that you're adding in some goodness. So it's more about, you know, what we put in over time so that we have a little bit of grace to enjoy some
Yeah.
of those treats.
And just
Yeah.
paying attention to what makes you feel good. I mean, some
Mm,
people have no trouble with carbs. I don't feel good when I eat a lot of carbs. So I know that. And I know if I eat a little bit, I'm going to be okay. But I know that if I'm eating bread all the time every day, I just don't feel as good. So it's not about a diet, like you said. It's just about paying attention to your body and knowing how you react with certain foods and what makes you feel good.
yeah. I love that because everybody is different too. So really trying to tune in and listen to your body, allowing yourself to try different foods, knowing, you know, with the science behind knowing that we do know that certain foods
Right.
are good for us,
Yes.
vegetables and fruits.
Right. Not saying,
But
well, broccoli doesn't make
yeah.
me feel
I just can't wait to eat my broccoli today, you know? But so we make educated decisions, I
right.
guess. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So just to switch gears a little bit, it is so interesting that you are a registered nurse, and I love that you're able to work one day a week just to maintain. And it's no joke working in ICU. It's not like you're working in a doctor's office. You're working in a serious setting.
Mhm.
Um, but how have your thoughts over the years, and with the shift for you too, how have your thoughts of the traditional medical approach and maybe the standard of care changed over those years?
Yeah, so this is a big one. Wow, it's a big one. So
Mhm.
there's so many things I could say, but I would say algorithms, if you know what algorithms are, like where you have a box and it's like, does this or this happen? And it's like, yes, so you move down this line. Does this or this happen? No, you move over to this box. And it just like kind of goes and follows this pattern to tell you what to do at the end.
Mhm.
I think that has changed everything in the medical world. We have an algorithm for everything. And I feel like it's greatly decreased our capacity to think, not just nurses, doctors specifically. They're good. This is good because it catches people in this net, if you will, that normally wouldn't be caught for um, problems that are frequent and happening, just happening frequently. Like stroke, for example, we have an algorithm for stroke. If you have certain things happen, it like moves you down this algorithm to tell you what to do for that patient. But we have these for everything, and I feel like just little things like doing these algorithms for everything have taken away our capacity to think. And if you do not fit inside of a box, if you do not have all of the check marks on a list, we don't know what to do for you.
Hmm.
And that scares me to death. Assessment has went out the window. The last time I saw a doctor lay a stethoscope on a patient, I cannot remember. Um,
Really?
oh my gosh, Kim, it's crazy. I mean, I don't want to say that with a broad brush because there
Sure.
are some really great doctors out there, but um, I have learned that I don't trust. A doctor is not a doctor is not a doctor. Just because you have a medical degree does not make you
Mhm.
equal to all your peers. Just
Mhm.
like anything in life. But I think general public, if you don't work in the medical world, you assume anybody with a degree that says you're a doctor is very smart and is capable
Yeah.
of caring for you. And
Yeah.
it's not the case. But definitive diagnostic testing is also excellent, except
Mhm.
for it's taken away our ability to think. And I just feel like as technology has increased, our abilities and knowledge have decreased. And just like texting, for example, like think about texting on your phone, like the predictive text. How much worse are
Yes.
we at spelling?
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
have predictive
Mhm.
text. It's the same thing in the medical world. We have all these things now that can definitively diagnose. And so, as those technologies have increased, our personal abilities and human abilities to determine what's going on with someone have decreased. And with that, I think our level of caring about getting to the root of someone's problem has decreased. Now, there's a lot of things surrounding this, like time, um, the amount of doctors and nurses versus patients. I mean, there's so much more demand on us. There's increased charting demands. The charting has just went crazy
Mhm.
bonkers since I started nursing too. I mean, we used to have a paper chart and we filled out one sheet. Now it's like this huge computer charting we have to chart every time we like look at a patient. Um,
Mhm.
so that's a whole nother thing. But I feel like if you actually want to get to the root of your problem and fix your problem, the medical world isn't the place. I
Mhm.
mean, in the ICU, yes, once you get to that point, you need us. You really need us.
Sure.
But
Sure.
on the preventative side, we're just wanting to fix everybody with statins, pain pills, and antidepressants.
Yes. Yeah.
And we
Amen.
need to help people. We need to
Mhm.
help people. And with my personal experience with that cancer scare, I was continuing to have pain issues and all these problems afterwards. And all my doctor kept telling me was, you need an antidepressant. Look at you, you're depressed. I'm like, I'm depressed because I don't trust you because you're not trying to get to the root of my problem. I'm not depressed because I'm depressed. I don't need an antidepressant.
Yeah.
I need you to care about me and I need you to try to
Mm.
help me. And that's when I went out on my own and tried to start helping myself and researching. And I think that we have just as a society allowed the medical world to just tell us how to take care of our bodies. We all have bodies. We need to know how to take care of them at the most basic level. And we've let that go. And we've given up that right to take care of ourselves to someone else. And so that is where my huge passion lies, is just empowering people again to know that they can take care of their body. And when I go to people and they're like, well, my doctor doesn't tell me that. I'm like, for one, they don't know because they've never studied nutrition.
Yep.
For two, why
Yes.
is it your doctor's responsibility to tell you how to eat? It is not. It is your responsibility to have some level of caring for yourself and trying to fix your problems a little bit on your own with nutrition. And so, just to spin off a little bit, if you don't mind, when I
Sure.
started doing this, I actually thought about going and getting kind of my nurse practitioner in like integrative type medicine,
Mhm.
because I'm so passionate about this. And then I thought about doing some kind of side in nutrition, like a degree. But then I decided not to do that at all. And there's a very deep reason for that, because I wanted to show people that you do not have to have a degree to take care of your body. I didn't
Mm.
want to further that mindset of people thinking, well, she can help me because she has this degree. I wanted people to know that anybody out there can learn how to take care of their body. And maybe you're not going to know all the science behind it, but there's people like me everywhere willing to help you learn how to take care of your body and learn how to get off of some of these medications. And after doing this for 4 years and helping people get off of immunosuppressives and thyroid and, you know, statins and all kinds of medications just through nutrition, I know in experience that we can help people do better in this country.
Wow. So much of what you said, I really want to touch on, and I wholeheartedly agree. As you know, I'm a registered nurse too. I haven't been
Yes.
practicing in a hospital for some time, so I can't speak to the same level currently of what you're talking about. But what I do know is that medical doctors, and like you said, this is not a broad brush of every doctor. There are
Mhm.
so many wonderful doctors out there, and I'm talking about regular MDs. But it is very well known that they are not taught nutrition in medical school. Doctors help to diagnose and treat with the treatment tools that they're given, which are medication, diagnostic tests, surgeries. So if we're looking at a prevention standpoint, an MD is not the person you want to go to for nutritional advice, you know,
Exactly.
and that's what it kind of angers me because with the whole insurance thing, because naturopathic physicians do have that training, and they see health as a holistic approach. So they're going to be looking at your diet first and foremost. But our insurance doesn't cover that, and people can't afford to go see naturopathic doctors, which is a little bit infuriating. And then they'll order blood tests that, the standard Quest labs or whatever can't perform those blood tests for you because
Hmm.
it's not a standard blood test that most MDs would prescribe. So that sense, it is infuriating. But I love, Rita, what you just said about that you had thought about going back to school for nutrition, but you chose not to because you wanted to prove that we could do this on our own. And I couldn't applaud that more because there is so much information out there. And we live in an age of Google, and we have access to everything like podcasts, Google searches, blogs like your own blog, even Instagram, searching hashtags for whatever medical condition you might have, or following a specific diet, or eliminating certain foods. um, we have that at our fingertips, and it really doesn't have to be that hard. I have learned so much from listening to other health podcasts myself, and like you said, um, we can help people. I mean, I wrote my book. I'm a registered nurse, and I'm not a nutritionist, but I have learned just from doing my own research on things that I know to be beneficial diet wise. So I can't applaud you more for saying that. Um,
Well,
and
and
I
touching
just,
on the nutritionist thing, our
yeah.
dietitians that come around in the hospital are
Mhm.
still telling people to switch to diet pop. and still
No.
telling people to switch to
Oh.
margarine after a major heart attack.
Yeah.
So, um,
Yeah.
there's a few questions there as well.
That's right.
So
Yeah, I think and there are, dietitians out there, and I think most of them don't work in hospitals that are
yes.
seeing more of like a holistic approach to
Yep.
nutrition. But I agree with that. I mean, on the patient's trays, they're in the hospital. They need immense healing, and we're giving them inflammatory foods on their
Yep.
trays, no doubt about it, which is disgusting. And then we're throwing meds at them. And one other thing is that anytime we're on a medication, it's depleting some kind of nutrient from our body.
Hmm.
So that's another concern as well. So I just want to, keep on this for a minute about, I know you're working in the ICU. So what do you see as being really critical for our optimal wellness so that you don't see folks in the ICU one day? So you did talk about nutrition, but what are some key points, that maybe we can all do to make sure that we're staying healthy and that we're not having to go on lots of meds and end up in the hospital?
Well, I think, some things we cannot prevent. So I don't want to like pretend like we can prevent every single thing. We can't.
Sure. Sure. Good
But
point.
I do think there is so much we can do. I think I try to keep everything super simple. That way everybody can do it. And this is in whatever your belief system is, you can think of this however you want, but I literally just think, did God make it or man make it when it comes to food? Is it
Mm,
God made or man made? And that's how I eat. If it's close to how God made it, that's how I try to eat. When it comes to an egg, I eat the whole egg because it was made that way, and I try to stay away from foods that we tried to make better, per se, I guess,
yeah.
like that we tried to improve upon. So, drinking a bunch of sodas and like giving your kids, it all starts with our kids, really. I mean, it starts with our kids. Think about us, like how much we've had to retrain ourselves nutrition wise, from the things that we were taught when we were kids. And we ate really good as kids compared to a lot of people. But I think that we've had to retrain ourselves quite a bit on the mindset of fat's not bad, um,
Mhm.
all of those things. Because when we were kids, Kim, I think that was pretty much the era of fat's bad for you,
Yep.
and you shouldn't eat
Mhm.
any fat. And so I think starting with your kids, if you can, just helping them learn how to feed their bodies good foods. And then I think supplementing is necessary. I absolutely do. We're farmers. And so I am not like dogging on farmers right now. But let's just be honest, soil isn't what it used to be. We farm and take care of things in a way that we can feed the world. And that's how it is right now. Um, but we need to add to our diet with supplementing because foods just aren't as nutrient dense as they used to be. And there are studies out there, you can look them up, that show that people are deficient in most of the major vitamins that they need in their body. And actually, I was talking to a friend of mine that is in nurse practitioner school the other day, and they were looking in charts at people who'd recently been diagnosed with cancer that are all deficient in vitamin D. And this
Mhm.
actual doctor, is very into nutrition. She was like, if they had they're all deficient in vitamin D. And this is just a tangent. I'm sorry, Kim. But
No,
this
I
is
love
like
it.
a huge link across the board. And people who are diagnosed with cancer, they're deficient in this vitamin. Well, we're not giving them the vitamin properly in the first place. It
Mhm.
should be linked with calcium and magnesium and potassium and those kind of things. But you need to make sure you're getting all of the necessary nutrients that your body needs. And then also exercise, move your body. I mean, our grandparents and their parents, they didn't have to exercise like we do. We have to exercise and move our bodies because a lot of moms have robots cleaning, like little robot vacuums now. And
Yeah.
we're not
Yeah.
gardening like we used to. We're not moving our bodies naturally in the way that we used to, just doing everyday chores. We're busier doing other things, and that's okay. I'm not like saying that's a bad thing, but we need to make sure we're moving our bodies because we're not just naturally moving them like we used to.
Mhm.
And those are the biggest things. I think it's so simple.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us think we do good at some of these
Mhm.
things, but we
Mhm.
don't. I saw a chart the other day also that said, like it was just like a girl saying, well, I see her eating pizza all the time and she doesn't have the problems I have. And it was a chart, and it was like literally the girl that didn't have the problems had pizza once a week. But this
Mm,
girl happened to see her eating it all the time because she saw her that once a week and assumed she did the same thing that the girl who did have problems was doing. And, I think we really need to just take a hard look at ourselves and make sure we are actually doing what we say and think we're doing to help our bodies.
yeah, that's a really good point. I think, living in this age of convenience, it's a love-hate relationship because like you said, you're talking about the what is that called? The
Roomba?
vacuum Roomba. That's I couldn't think of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty cool. I don't have one, but I think
I
that is
don't
a
either,
pretty
but
cool
yeah,
thing. But
I wouldn't turn it down if someone came my way.
yeah, right, exactly, exactly. So I mean, there are convenience things like that, but also then we become lazy because it's just super easy to go to a store and buy a packaged product, crackers and breads and cookies and stuff. And just because it's there doesn't mean that we should be eating it. And likewise,
Mhm.
we're not moving nearly as much as our grandparents even did. Just when we have this convenience, it's making us kind of lazy as a population. That's not to say we're not busy because we're a busy society, but busy and moving our bodies are two different things. So
Yeah.
it's important to keep
And
in
I
mind.
think a lot of people say they don't know how to cook also. This is just another thing. But
Yeah.
it's not hard to cook from scratch. You just
Yeah.
have to I think when people overwhelm themselves with recipes and stuff, I get overwhelmed with
Mhm.
recipes. But if you learn how to cook a few things well from scratch, not from a box, and then just incorporate a few more things here and there, your family's going to be overall more healthy because you're not eating all the preservatives. That's huge.
Yeah, you do advocate for that really well, and you'll show on Instagram, your family meals, and they look delicious, but they are simple, and I think that's
Easy.
like, yeah, right. I think that's a key takeaway from our conversation here because you're pointing out some very tangible, practical, easy tips for us. Eating foods that God made versus man made, taking some key supplements, and I'm going to ask you about in a second, and then just natural exercise. I think those things are they don't have to be hard. You're not saying for people to run a marathon and like you said, cook everything from scratch. That's super complicated with recipes and ingredients that we don't have at home. But I do applaud you for that because I love looking at your Instagram feed, and you'll have these just gorgeous like little taco. You do like a taco night, right? And
Yeah, we eat taco night a lot,
yeah,
like, maybe
yeah.
more than once or twice a week, but it's pretty healthy.
It is, and it's stuff that your kids will eat too,
Yep.
so it's not like something. Yeah, I think when we do overcomplicate it, it becomes a headache for everybody. But I wanted to get back to speaking of supplementation. I know that you're a big advocate of that. So, and now this is given with a caveat that we each need different things depending on who we are. There's
Mhm.
a bio individuality piece. But what are some supplements that you have found beneficial? You mentioned vitamin D, but what are some others that might be beneficial for a lot of us or helpful for some people?
I think a good multivitamin is huge,
Mm,
and I think if you can get your vitamins and supplements in a liquid form, it is amazing because it assimilates into your body so much more easily. Your body can absorb it more easily.
okay.
Um, And I want to say, I don't think all supplements are created equal. When people come to me and I'm working one on one with them, I do find that a lot of times people are paying a lot of money for vitamins they could have gotten off the shelf at Walmart. And I'm
Mhm.
not advocating for getting your vitamins at Walmart, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like um, this may be one place where you need a little help just finding a vitamin that is comprehensive and that is what it says it's going to do. For example, one of my friends came to me and she was on a product that's supposed to help them become more alkaline, was literally a Tums that was
Mm,
increased in price up to, like, I think it was around $40 for a bottle. And I'm like, that's Tums. You're taking Tums. Um,
wow.
so
Wow.
I think you need to look at your supplements, make sure you know what you're getting. I think a multivitamin is huge because, like we said earlier, a lot of people are, when you look at studies, almost a huge, vast number of the population is deficient in the major vitamins that you need in your body.
Mhm.
Um, Another one that's been huge for me is sulfur, has been huge. If you Google that, you will find help with anything from cancer to GERD, like acid reflux, to joint pain, to allergies, all kinds of things. And this is something actually that I can tell you we are deficient in. Our soil is deficient in. We get soil testing every year, and it's something that is not able to be reapplied to the soil. So we're just becoming more and more deficient in it. So there's a lot of linkage to that. Calcium. People are taking calcium tablets or taking vitamin D tablets, but they're not pairing it with magnesium and vitamin K. And those things are important to be taken together. Let's see what else. Superfruits are amazing. They're amazing things that God put on this earth that you can take to help with all kinds of different things, with digestion, with inflammation, and antihistamine support. There's so many things you can do with supplementation. And like you said, not everybody's the same. So I don't want to paint it with a broad brush, but this is something I love helping people with. So helping one-on-one.
So the last one you mentioned was superfruits. Is that right?
Yeah.
So is that like a powder form?
No, like liquid superfruits.
Okay.
That's a thing. Like a lot of people do pick up superfruits at like the grocery store. They'll pick up like like in the produce section, it'll be like a bottle of acai, like a drink. And it's like water and a little bit of acai. No, like actual liquid superfruits in their natural form.
Okay. That's really interesting. And you mentioned with the antihistamine, that's something, because I tend to have like a histamine reaction. So it might be something that I need to look into. Yeah. That's very interesting.
And
really cool.
I help people one-on-one with this. So you can always reach out to me.
That's what I was going to say. If you need help with supplementation, Rita is your person, because she knows a lot about it, and you could probably help people determine what they need based on their symptoms and things.
Like you said, like not everybody needs the same thing. And I think that that's one thing people do so often. They'll see like somebody post something on Facebook and it's like a one size fits all. Well, not everything works for you like it's going to work for somebody else. So it's really important that you make sure you get something that's actually going to work for you.
That's a really good point. Yep. And sometimes some people are deficient in things that others are not. So moving on to talking about exercise, I really like, and this is something that I've gathered from your Instagram also, you have a very simple but unique approach to exercise that makes it really a lot less daunting for all of us. So can you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I used to run all the time. Like that was my exercise. I ran. And if I wasn't drenched in sweat afterwards, I didn't get a workout. Like that was my mindset. But after I had kids, I was like, I do not have time to get drenched in sweat because I don't have time for a shower in the middle of the day. And I was so tired from like being a mom that I couldn't wake up early in the morning to go for a run before my husband left at like 6 a.m. It just wasn't feasible. So after a couple of years of kind of working out and kind of not and feeling bad because of it, I figured out I was going to have to find something that actually worked for me. And what that was just doing moves that I could do in my living room throughout my day. Like sometimes I'll do like a 20, 30 minute workout all at once, but most of the time my workouts are push-ups, squats, planks, some standing like crossover crunches and jumping jacks like throughout my day. Like I'll do 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the afternoon, 10 minutes at night after my kids go to bed while I'm watching TV. And I never get like super sweaty where I'm having to like wash my hair and everything afterwards. But I get a really good workout. It keeps me toned. It keeps me feeling physically fit and strong to run with my kids. And that's really how I work out. Recently, since my youngest started back in school a couple days a week, I have started running a little bit again on the treadmill and hopefully outside as it becomes nicer. And I just want to throw this in there because I really don't like running that much. And the other day I was on the treadmill and I was like, I'm so tired. I just want to turn this down, like turn the speed back down. And I really like made myself think about it. And I realized I wasn't really that tired. I was just bored. And so I think it's really important to try to find something that's not super boring for you. But honestly, I don't love working out. And I think a lot of people are like, well, she likes working out. No, I really don't too much, but I do it because I know I should. And I know that, like we talked about, I'm living a lifestyle that is completely different from the ones my grandparents led. So I probably need to get some movement in, and it's good for me and I have to do it. So just being an adult about it and realizing you need to do it is huge.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Yeah, being an adult and knowing that, like you said, just our society, going back to that convenience thing, our society is just different. We drive to so many
Mm,
places. We're not like your husband, I'm sure, is so busy, working in the farm, but most of us aren't doing that.
right.
We're a very convenience oriented society. Um, and I think when people feel like they have to dedicate long segments of time to going to a gym, like driving to the gym, changing your clothes, doing whatever workout, and then people will spend like an hour on an
Yeah.
elliptical machine. And it's like, what is that doing for you? It actually, when you're spending tons of time like that and you're doing just one motion, it's not really doing anything for you. And when we're doing lengthy kinds of exercise, it can actually be inflammatory for us.
Hmm.
And that's why I think I love your approach, is that it's certainly not boring. And I like the idea of spreading it out over the day. Like, if you have 5 minutes, do a few things, and
Yeah.
then come back to it a few hours later. I just think that's so much less intimidating, but it's also not copping out in any way, because I mean, doing jumping jacks, you can get out of breath, and holding a plank for long periods of time. I mean, you'll start shaking after a
Yeah.
while. So you're
So
using
I'm
your body weight.
I'm typically getting in that time period, like through adding it all up at the end of the day. I'm typically getting in around 150 squats, um,
Wow.
like 50 push-ups, 5 minutes of planks. So it's
Yeah.
not nothing. Like I'm
No.
doing a lot in those little times. But when people tell me they don't have time, I'm like, baloney. I saw
Mhm.
you on Facebook for
Yes.
like a half hour earlier.
Yeah.
So while you're
Right.
on Facebook scrolling, you
Mhm.
could be down on the floor doing some planks instead of sitting on your
Yeah.
couch.
Yeah, or watching TV,
Yeah.
and if
And I'm
people don't
not
wanna.
trying to be like hard on people, but
Mhm. Right.
we have to be honest with ourselves. And I think that's huge in our society. We are not honest with ourselves. And you see on
Mhm.
Instagram all the time, like people are saying, you need to find friends that'll tell you the hard truth. But I have found most people do not want friends that tell them the hard truth,
Mm.
even though they say they do. But I'm going to tell
Yeah.
you a hard truth. You have time to work out. You're just not trying hard enough.
Yeah. And I also think, sometimes when people come home from work and they're tired and they just want to plop down on the couch. And I think it's okay to, like you can rest for a little bit, but
Yeah,
don't you also find that like you become more energized when you
exactly.
just start doing a little bit? Even if you just want to go outside and go for a walk, like you will become more energized, and
Yep.
it does take your mind off of the day. So I think what you've mentioned about breaking it up and just, doing a little bit here and there, but it all adds up. I mean, seriously, 150 squats is a ton. So
Yeah, but it
you
doesn't
you are
take
going to
long
get
at all. If you
right.
time yourself, it may feel like a long time. I
Hmm.
don't do them all consecutively, by the way, but
Right.
it may feel like a long time, but it's not. You can do a
No.
lot in 5 minutes.
Right. And I like that you're changing things up a little bit too, so you're not getting bored. You're not just doing like all squats, because people will go to the gym, and that's not to knock people that are doing, but like having a leg day and they're doing all of these leg exercises, like
Mhm.
all in one day, but you're changing it up also, and so that your body is, constantly moving in different planes and different positions, and I
Right, like
just
the
really like
CrossFit
that.
people, like, I applaud them. It's just not me. Like, I
Hmm.
live 20 minutes from the closest gym, and it's
Yeah.
like a small hometown gym. So I
Hmm.
just don't have time for that. It's not personally something that fits into my lifestyle, but I applaud that if that's for you. But I just realized that a lot of what we're seeing on social media is that type of gym lifestyle. And
Yeah.
so I think that for the average person that doesn't have that kind of time or doesn't have the money to spend to go to the gym, that could spend their money elsewhere on their health,
Hmm.
um, maybe something like I do would work better for them, but they just don't know that that is an option because they're seeing the other stuff all the time.
Right. Right. Or I even think about people that might be like embarrassed to go to a gym, or if someone's like extremely
Hmm.
overweight and they don't know where to begin, just doing a few moves like that at home, whether you're busy or it is because of, an issue of weight, or
Unlike me,
even.
I'm just embarrassed to go to the gym because I'm uncoordinated.
I know. Yeah, I know.
I'm
Yeah.
clumsy.
Right. And you don't want to feel uncomfortable, like you feel like people are staring at you, but they're not really. But yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of good benefits to just working out at home. Well, Rita, you have given us such good information today, such great advice. I appreciate you. I adore you as a friend, and I just thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks so
So
much, Kim.
yeah. So if people wanted to connect with you, if they wanted more information about your Instagram or any, things, your ideas for supplements for them, where can people find you?
Okay, so I am at Healthy Beat Skinny on Instagram and on Facebook, and my website is healthybeatskinny.com. Interestingly enough, people are kind of starting to know me a little bit more as my name, which is Rita Rogers. So some time in the near future that might be changing. It might not be Healthy Beat Skinny anymore, but if you can't find me there, contact Kim and she will hook you up with me wherever I'm at.
I sure will. Well, thanks again for being on the show, Rita. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Kim.
That's it for today. For more from Kim, you can go to kimmaravich.com. For more from Lori, go to simplympoweredllc.com. We're always open to listener questions or suggestions for the show. You can email those to contact@awholenewyouPodcast.com. We'd also love it if you joined our Facebook community and followed us on Instagram. Just search for A Whole New You Podcast. And lastly, if you'd be so kind as to leave us a rating and review in iTunes, we would really appreciate that so more people can find our show and join our community. We'll see you next week.